Okay, let's get into this. Lizzie Borden took an axe. You hear that rhyme? And it still gives you a bit of a chill. Right?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. The whole story surrounding the Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Right. And you gathered some really fascinating sources for us. We've got like a first-hand account from someone who actually stayed overnight there recently.
Yeah. That People magazine piece.
Yeah.
And we've also got the historical facts about the house itself and the horrific events that happened inside.
Exactly. So the goal here isn't just to retell that spooky rhyme. We really want to dig deeper, understand why this house is still so captivating after all this time.
Mm-hmm.
What are the actual facts of the murders? What's the deal with the house itself? And maybe even what's it like spending a night there?
It's such a strange mix, isn't it? True crime history, but also this sort of enduring fascination with maybe the possibility of something paranormal.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. August 1892. That's when everything changed for that house on 2nd Street.
August 1892. Fall River. Must have been incredibly hot and then just horrific. Andrew Borden, Lizzie's father, and Abby Borden, her stepmother, found dead.
Yeah, and not just dead. Brutally murdered with a hatchet. Multiple blows to the head for both of them.
The details are just gruesome. Abby was found first, right? Upstairs.
Well, her bedroom, yeah.
Yeah.
She suffered 19 blows. Just staggering.
19, wow. And Andrew was found later.
Downstairs in the parlor, he had 10 or 11 blows.
Yeah.
Found resting on a sofa.
That People article mentions how the tours now, they have mannequins.
Oh, yeah.
Where the bodies were found. And replica skulls in the dining room showing the angle and the hatchet hits. It's very visceral.
It really brings the violence home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And think about who was actually in the house. Or around it.
Right. Lizzie was supposedly inside when Abby was killed.
The maid, Bridget Sullivan, she was outside washing windows, apparently.
And the other sister, Emma.
Emma was away visiting friends. So, not there at the time.
Which, of course, leads to Lizzie being the main suspect almost immediately. But then she was acquitted.
Correct. Acquitted.
Yeah.
And that's really the core of the enduring mystery, isn't it? If Lizzie didn't do it, then who did?
Exactly. No one else was ever really charged, were they?
No. Plenty of theories over the years, loads of speculation, but nothing proven. The acquittal itself was, likely influenced by the times.
How so?
The jury was all men. And the idea of a woman from, a respectable family committing such a savage crime, it was hard for them to stomach. A definite societal bias played a role.
That makes sense. So the acquittal just left this huge question mark hanging over everything.
Absolutely. And that uncertainty, that lack of closure, it just fused the fascination. Yeah. Which kind of leads us nicely to the house itself, the actual stage for this whole tragedy.
Yeah, the house at, originally, 92 2nd Street. Later changed to 230.
Right. And Andrew Borden owned it from 1872 right up until he died in it in 1892.
And he was a pretty big deal in Fall River, right? Bank president, high society.
He was definitely wealthy, which makes the house itself seem, kind of strange.
Strange how?
For all his money, he was famously frugal. He apparently refused to install indoor plumbing or electricity in the house.
Seriously. No running water, no electric lights in the 1890s?
Nope. They had a privy, like an outhouse, but in the basement, and chamber pots under the beds.
Wow. Okay. So why buy that house then if he had money?
The location, apparently. It was super close to his businesses on Main Street. So practicality over comfort, it seems.
And it sounds like it wasn't exactly a party house.
Definitely not.
No.
Lizzie in particular was reportedly quite embarrassed by it. Didn't like having her more well-off friends over.
So maybe some tension there within the family about appearances or lifestyle?
It certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? Suggests maybe things weren't all smooth sailing behind closed doors, despite the outward prosperity. These little details about the house, they add layers.
And after the murders and the trial, Lizzie inherited the house, along with Emma.
Yes, she did. But she didn't stay.
Right. She moved relatively quickly, didn't she, to that other house, Maplecroft.
Exactly. So the original house, 32 2nd Street, to 32nd Street after 1896, it passed out of her hands.
And eventually it took on a whole new life.
It really did. Which brings us to its next chapter, becoming a bed and breakfast. And a major paranormal destination.
It opened as a B&B back in 1996. That was Martha McGinn and Ronald Evans, right?
Yeah, and they had a connection. Martha's grandparents had actually bought the house way back in 1948.
Wow, so it stayed in their family for a long time before becoming a B&B.
It did. And what's really interesting is how quickly its dark past became the main selling point.
I bet. Did they say which room was most popular?
Martha McGinn mentioned that the room where Abby Borden was murdered, that was the most requested.
Oh, of course it was. People are drawn to that stuff, aren't they?
Absolutely. That morbid curiosity. Then later owners, Donald Woods and Leanne Wilbers, they took over.
And did they keep the historical angle?
They did the tours, focusing on the facts, yeah.
Yep.
90-minute tours. But they also added some other elements.
Like what?
Like offering a Ouija board for guests to use.
Oh, okay. So leaning into the spooky side a bit more directly.
Definitely. More actively inviting that kind of interaction. And that's when the mannequins appeared, the autopsy photos. Really emphasizing the grim history visually.
It's a definite shift. And the current owner, Lance Zahl, took over in 2021.
Right. And his background is interesting. He owns Ghost Adventures.
Ah, okay. So he's definitely familiar with the paranormal investigation world.
Very much so. And his plans seem to reflect that. He's keeping the historical tours, the ghost tours.
But adding more.
Yeah. Podcasts, virtual stuff, themed dinners. There was even talk of making it a wedding venue, maybe adding another bedroom.
A wedding venue. Wow. Okay.
But he also talks about keeping the house as is, mostly, original furnishings decor.
Yeah.
Though they did plan to replace the old iron stove just for safety.
Right. Kind of balance preservation with practicality and, well, safety.
It's a balancing act. Honoring the history, but also fully capitalizing on its reputation.
Which brings us right to the big question. Is it actually haunted?
Well, that's where the People magazine reporter's stay comes in. Julie Jordan, along with these two women, Liz Beadle and Emily Pankey. They call themselves the Ghost Moms.
Ghost Moms, okay.
Yeah, they investigate paranormal stuff. So the three of them spent the night specifically looking for, well, anything unusual.
And where did they stay? In Abby's room?
No, they were in the maid's attic room.
Yeah.
Bridget Sullivan's room? Apparently that's considered the most active spot in the house, paranormally speaking.
Really? What kind of things are supposed to happen up there?
The article mentions reports from past guests hearing kids giggling or laughing.
Kids? But there weren't young children involved in the murders.
No, not directly. But that's the report. Also objects moving, marbles, coat hangers, and the classic haunted house trope. A rocking chair moving by itself.
Okay, creepy. So what did the reporter and the Ghost Moms experience?
They had an EMF meter. You know, those devices that measure electromagnetic fields.
Yeah, ghost hunters use them all the time.
Right. They're supposedly reacted when they ask questions, lights flashing, though, could be wiring, could be anything.
True. What else?
They reported hearing a sound, like a man gasping, in the hallway when they thought they were alone.
Okay, that's unsettling.
And they had one of those word database devices, sometimes called Ghost Box or Ovilus.
Oh, yeah, those things that supposedly spit out relevant words.
Exactly. In the maid's room, they asked if anything wanted to interact, and it supposedly said hide and seek.
Hide and seek? Huh. Kind of childish, but creepy in context.
Right. And they also had a motion detector near a toy chess trigger around 3 a.m.
3 a.m., the classic witching hour.
Pretty much. So you add all that up in that house with that history.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why people feel like maybe spirits are still there.
Yeah.
The reporter even suggested maybe they're trying to solve the mystery themselves.
It's a compelling narrative. Does anyone offer a counterpoint? A skeptical view?
Yeah, the Wikipedia source we looked at mentions investigator Joe Nickel. He's well known for debunking paranormal claims.
And what does he say?
He suggests things like EMF readings can have normal explanations, and that feelings or Ouija board movements might be down to psychological factors, like the ideomotor effect, where you move something unconsciously just because you expect it to move.
Right, the power of suggestion. It's important to consider that side, too.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is key when you're dealing with stuff like this.
Definitely. But whether you believe in ghosts or not, you can't deny the house's impact on pop culture. It keeps popping up.
Oh, for sure. Like that Supernatural episode, Thin Lizzie.
Right. It wasn't actually filmed at the house, was it? And it wasn't exactly flattering, from what I recall.
No, it was a fictionalized take, used the Borden story as inspiration. But it shows how the name recognition is still huge.
And didn't you mention something about a video game?
Yeah, in Fallout 4, the Nuka World expansion, there's this creepy house. Feels a bit like the Winchester Mystery House.
Yeah.
But the story the narrator tells has some serious Lizzie Borden vibes.
Huh. It really gets everywhere.
And of course, BuzzFeed Unsolved did an episode there. Huge online audience, bringing the story to a whole new generation with their typical mix of trying things out, but also being a bit skeptical.
Yeah, they definitely helped keep the fascination going.
These references, they just keep reinforcing the legend.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The crime, the house, the B&B, the hauntings, the pop culture stuff. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things that stick out to you? What should listeners take away?
I think for me, it's the layers. It's not just a murder house.
Yeah.
You know, it's this weird snapshot of late 19th century life for a wealthy but odd family.
Yeah, the lack of plumbing is still weird.
Right. And then its transformation into this place that draws people in for totally different reasons. History buffs, true crime fans, paranormal enthusiasts, got all these facets.
I agree. And even with all the tours and investigations and articles, the core mystery is still there. We still don't know definitively what happened that day in 1892.
Exactly. That unanswered question is powerful. And then you have the ongoing debate about the alleged hauntings. What's really going on there? Is unexplainable phenomena or something else?
It leaves you wondering. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is, what's your take on the Lizzie Borden House?
Mm-hmm. Is it just a historical site marked by tragedy? A place where psychological suggestion runs wild?
Or could there be something more to those whispers of ghosts? Maybe that's the real hook, isn't it? Not just the crime itself, but our own desire to understand things that seem unexplainable.
That enduring human pull towards the unknown, it keeps the story alive.